Welcome back to Take It or Heave It. I'm Wes. This is Ryan.
Yeah, hey, half-beard. It looks like you shaved and got a haircut.
I did.
Yeah, looking good.
Thanks. That shirt looks good on you, too.
Gracias. Good talk. Awesome. Let's get started.
First album we're going to look at is Beck with Modern Guilt. It's out on July 8th on Interscope Records. Modern Guilt is a pretty uneasy album to listen to, as the lyrics are as sad and melancholy as they were on Sea Change. That's fine for me because I think Beck's best work comes when he's depressed. What makes the album uneasy is what Danger Mouse does for the music. While Beck's lyrics are sad, the music's very happy. This creates a tug of war between what's going on with the words and what's going on with the music. That might be a little too much for some people to listen to, but I'm going to have to keep Modern Guilt.
I would say that Modern Guilt falls somewhere in between the really depressed, somber atmosphere of Sea Change and the more upbeat cornucopia of sounds that Beck produced on Güero. There's still a mix of hip-hop and jazz and even some folk, but all of the songs have a real rustic, kind of rootsy vibe to them, which really matches the depressed vibe on the lyrics. I think it's a good album. I think it's a little bit short, but it's definitely worth taking, and I'm definitely going to take it.
So you really think that the best Beck work is the stuff where he's depressed?
Oh yeah, my favorite Beck album is Sea Change, easily. It's not that I don't like his other super happy stuff, because I think he's great. I think he's great all around. Mm-hmm. But I love Sea Change. I think that was his best writing.
No, so do I. And you know, like I like a lot of his earlier stuff, but I remember throwing in Sea Change like the first time you listened to it all the way through, and you were like, he is going to kill himself. He's legitimately going to, like, you know, down the street in his bathtub.
Now, did you feel bad that you were getting joy out of Beck's crazy depression? Because I kind of felt bad, but then I was like, but he's making me kind of feel happy.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's kind of a good way to, like, you know, kind of exercise the demons.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how, you know, like if you see a kid trip out in the street, you feel kind of bad, but at the same time, you're like, you know, it's a learning experience for him, and you got to see a kid trip. So.
Oh, yeah, and a midget holding an umbrella or something like that. Beck, stay depressed. Up next is Black Kid with Party Traumatic, out July 22nd on Ready.
Black Kids will be performing at Lollapalooza on Sunday, August 3rd, the last day of the festival.
I was a big fan of the EP that the Black Kids released last year, and with all the songs being regurgitated on this one, I thought there was no way that I wouldn't like Party Traumatic. And I was right. Frontman Reggie Youngblood sounds just like Robert Smith, and all the songs are about either wanting to have sex or having sex. And who, outside of Ryan, can't relate to that? I'm going to have to keep Party Traumatic.
Okay. So you hear Party Traumatic and you think, are they emo weeper kids? Are they indie hip-hop kids? Are they power pop kids? But then the more you listen to the album, the more you're like, I don't really care because it's awesome. Listen to this album and all the power pop and even like a little bit of hip-hop and the synths on it. It's like a party that you're so glad you're invited to. I think it's an awesome party album. I'm going to take it.
The third album we're going to look at is Rahim with Laughter. It's on Flameshovel Records. Comes out on September 8th.
Laughter is the follow-up to their critically acclaimed debut album.
Laughter is an album that features some pretty cool synth textures and some overall expansive melodies. Rahim tried to focus a little more on songwriting on this album, and while the songwriting's better than the first album, I still don't think it's that great. Plus, I really don't think their lead singer is that much of a frontman. I'm going to have to heave Rahim.
I think the problem with the Rahim album is that there's nothing particularly good to offset what is bad about the album. The songwriting is okay. It's a little bit bland. There's nothing about it that stands out. The lyrics, again, are okay. There's nothing about them that really stand out. The problem with the album, though, is the vocals. It's really hard to listen to. There's nothing even, there's no everyman quality about them. There's nothing that, even if you didn't have a great voice, you could look to and say, well, I still appreciate that about the vocals. It just sounds like a kid in high school who's still waiting for his balls to drop. I'm going to heave the album.
The last album we're going to look at is Broken Social Scene presents Brenden Canning with Something for All of Us. It's out July 22nd on Arts and Crafts Records.
This is the second in the Broken Social Scene Presents series, and I think we're all here hoping that the next one is going to be Broken Social Scene Presents Kenny G.
The first Broken Social Scene Presents album was my favorite album of last year, and I think Something for All of Us is bigger, better, and more fierce. While Drew is usually the lead singer of Broken Social Scene, Canning's voice is almost like an instrument on this album more than a focus point, and I've always thought Broken Social Scene's biggest asset was an instrumentation. I'm going to have to take Something for All of Us.
Last year, Broken Social Scene presented us with Kevin Drew, the other half of the band's main duo outside of their, revolving door of guest musicians. And that album was full of huge, anthems and galloping melodies. But as the architect of the rhythm section of Broken Social Scene, Canning's album is a lot more understated. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. The vocals and the guitars are kind of drenched in reverb, but by the end of almost every track, the layers build on one another until it's cathartic and it's really, really interesting. And by the time you get to the end of the album, I was totally hooked. So I'm going to take it.
As for Beck, Ryan and I both dug the combination of depressed lyrics and intricate music. For the Black Kids, Ryan and I love the power pop of Party Traumatic. We were both disappointed in the vocals and the songwriting on the Rahim album. And as for Broken Social Scene, we both think Brenden Canning's album is just as good as Kevin Drew's.
That'll do it for this week's edition of Take It or Heave It. For Wes Soltis, I'm Ryan Peters.
This was actually an audition tape to take over at the movies with Ebert and Roper. We're going to be sending this off. So
Who's Ebert and who's Roper?
I think I'd be Roper.
Yeah, you're a dick, so you would be Roper. I'm Ebert.